In 1923, a German citizen walked into a bakery with a wheelbarrow full of cash. By the time he reached the front of the line, the price of bread had doubled, and his money was literally worth more as fuel for his fireplace than as currency. We look at history and call it insanity. We call it a failure of the past. But right now, in 2026, the United States is following the exact same mathematical roadmap that led to the collapse of the Roman Empire, the Weimar Republic, and the British sterling. The debt is $38 trillion. Interest payments now cost more than the entire US military budget. The system isn't just broken, it's being intentionally reset. And if you're still holding your life savings in a standard US bank account, you aren't just a spectator. You're the collateral. Today, we go beyond the news. We perform a financial autopsy on the US dollar. I'm going to show you the 5 stages of a collapsing empire, why the Great Reset is already here, and the ghost assets the 1% are using to vanish from the system before the trapdoors close. Welcome to the end of the dollar. Let's look at the forensics. Part 1. AE, mathematical trap the debt. Let's talk about the number that the mainstream media loves to ignore. 38 trillion. To a human brain, a trillion is just a word. But look at it this way. If you spent $1 million every single day since the birth of Jesus Christ, you still wouldn't have spent $1 trillion today. America has 38 of them. For decades, we were told debt doesn't matter because we print the world's reserve currency. That was stage 1. But in 2026, we've hit the interest trap. When interest rates rise, the cost to service this debt explodes. We are now borrowing money just to pay the interest on the money we already borrowed. In financial terms, this is a Ponzi scheme. In history, this is stage 3 of a collapse. Just like the Romans shaved silver off their denarius to pay for their overstretched military, the Fed is shaving the value of your dollar through silent inflation. Your $100 still says $100, but it buys 40% less than it did 5 years ago. That's not a bug. It's a feature of a dying empire. Part 2. Bathy Global, Exodus BRICS, and D-Dollars. For 80 years, the US dollar has been the king. If you wanted to buy oil, you needed dollars. This gave America a superpower status, but the king is being betrayed. Since 2024, the BRICS nations have accelerated their exit. Saudi Arabia, the cornerstone of the petrodollar, is now accepting other currencies for oil. This is the black swan event of our lifetime. When those trillions of dollars held overseas are no longer needed for oil, where do they go? They flood back to American shores. This is called reflexive inflation. Imagine a tidal wave of cash hitting a market with fewer goods. This is why the billionaire class, the Jeff Bezoses and the Mark Zuckerbergs, are selling their stocks at record levels. They aren't diversifying. They are exiting the burning building before the roof falls in. Part 3. The Jost Assets, the 1% secret. So, where is the smart money going? They aren't putting it in a 401k or savings account. They are moving into what I call ghost assets. 1. Productive hard assets. Not just land, but land that produces. Bill Gates is the largest owner of farmland in America for a reason. You can't print a potato. 2. Jurisdictional arbitrage, moving wealth to neutral zones. Places like the UAE or Singapore that aren't tied to the Western debt bubble. 3. Sovereign insurance. Gold and silver are the only assets that haven't been zero in 5,000 years. But notice, the banks are buying gold at the highest rate since 1967. They are telling you to buy stocks while they are buying the insurance. CT conclusion. Do your survival plan. The next 24 months will likely see more financial volatility than the last 20 years combined. The trap is set. The question is, are you the one in the trap, or are you the one who saw it coming? History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. 2026 is the year of the rhyme. If you want to understand the forensic patterns of the elite and protect your family from the coming reset, you need to stop listening to the financial gurus on TV and start looking at the financial historians. This is stage 5. The exit is narrow. It's time to move. If you found this forensic analysis valuable, subscribe. We don't do hype here. We do autopsies. Protect your wealth. Protect your future. But here is the part they aren't telling you in the news. The collapse of the dollar isn't just about debt, it's about control. As the paper dollar dies, the system is preparing its successor, CBDC's central bank digital currencies. Imagine a dollar that has an expiration date. A dollar that can be programmed to only work at certain stores or blocked if your carbon footprint or social score isn't high enough. This isn't science fiction. The infrastructure is already being tested. The $38 trillion trap is designed to push you into this digital cage. When the Great Reset happens, your bank deposits might be converted into these programmable tokens. This is why the ghost assets we discussed earlier are so critical. They are your off-ramp. The 1% aren't just buying gold because it's shiny. They're buying it because it's anonymous. It has no delete button. They are buying productive farmland because no matter who is in the White House or what the Fed prints, people must eat. But there's one more asset, the most important one of all, that most people overlook until it's too late. It's called social capital. In the collapse of the Soviet Union and the crisis in Yugoslavia, the people who survived weren't just the ones with the most gold. They were the ones who had a network. They knew who the doctor was, who the mechanic was, and who could be trusted. In a world of digital illusions and collapsing paper, reality is the ultimate hedge. Your skills, your tools, your community, and your physical ownership of assets. These are the only things that will cross the bridge from the old world to the new one. History is a cycle of 80 years. The fourth turning is here. The dollar empire is reaching its mathematical limit. You can spend your time hoping the government fixes it, or you can spend your time positioning yourself for the inevitable. Remember, the sheep wait for the shepherd to save them, but the shepherd only saves them for the slaughter. The wise man becomes his own shepherd. We are entering the most volatile decade in human history. Don't be a case study in a future history book about the generation that lost it all. Be the one who saw the pattern, recognized the forensics, and took action. I've linked a deep dive analysis on the specific ghost assets mentioned today in the description below. If you want to stay ahead of the reset, join our community of financial forensic analysts. Subscribe and hit the bell. Because when the system goes dark, the only light you'll have is the knowledge you've built today. If you think it can't happen here, you're ignoring the ghosts of the last decade. Let's look at the autopsy of two modern collapses, Venezuela and Lebanon. In 2010, Venezuela was the richest country in South America. They had more oil than Saudi Arabia. But they fell into the same trap, overspending massive debt and printing money to solve the problem. In just a few years, a cup of coffee went from 2 bolivars to 2 million. Doctors and engineers were forced to scavenge for food. Then look at Lebanon in 2019. Their banking system was called the Switzerland of the East. People felt safe. Then, overnight, the banks closed. They implemented capital controls. If you had $100,000 in your account, you could only withdraw $200 a week. And that $200 was paid in a local currency that was losing 20% of its value every month. This is the digital Iron Curtain. When the US debt bubble pops, the Fed won't just say we're sorry. They will freeze the pipes. Your digital balance will be trapped behind a screen while the prices at the gas station double every morning. This isn't a theory. It is the standard operating procedure for every collapsing fiat system in history. FE, Shadow, Wilts transferred the Cantillon effect. To understand why the rich are getting richer while the system dies, you need to understand the Cantillon effect. When the Fed prints a new $1 trillion, who gets it first? It's not you. It's the big banks and the massive corporations. They get to spend that fresh money at today's prices. By the time that money trickles down to your paycheck, prices have already risen to absorb it. This is a silent vacuum cleaner, sucking the wealth out of the American middle class. Every time the government stimulates the economy, they are actually stealing your future labor. This is why the 1% are buying hard assets. They are front-running the inflation that they are creating. If you aren't moving your wealth into the front-run zone, into gold, silver, and productive land, you are the one being harvested. The $38 trillion trap is the largest wealth transfer in human history, and it is happening in real time. So, what is the master key to surviving stage 5? It's a concept called the sovereign individual. In the old world, you relied on the state for your identity, your money, and your security. In the new world, you must unbundle yourself, financial sovereignty, move away from permission money. If a bank can tell you no, it's not your money, it's their liability. Digital sovereignty. Use encrypted communication and decentralized storage. In a crisis, information is more valuable than gold. Physical sovereignty. Have a planned location. Whether it's a cabin in the woods or a residency in a neutral country, mobility is your greatest defense against a desperate government. The dollar empire is a sinking ship. You can try to plug the holes with your bare hands, or you can lower your lifeboat. The elite have already lowered theirs. History is brutal to those who stay on the ship until the very end. But for those who see the forensic patterns, this isn't the end of the world. It's the birth of a new era of freedom. Choose your side. Choose your assets. Choose your future. Hit the clock eyes ticking. Subscribe to the channel to join our network of financial historians. Watch our next deep dive on how to build a crisis-proof portfolio. Stay sharp. Stay solid.